World Geography, South Asia, Hinduism and Sikhism. You'll have to excuse me on this video if I mispronounce some of the Hindu religious terms, so bear with me. Here are the learning objectives. 1. Explain the Hindu concepts of dharma, karma, and samsara. 2. Identify the levels of social stratification in the Hindu caste system. 3. Who are the Sikhs? Hinduism. Origins. Hinduism offers its believers several perspectives or different points of view to help guide their lives here on earth. It does not have a rigid common belief system that must be followed without question. It's more open-ended. To Hindus, Hinduism is just the traditional way of life. It cannot be defined, it really can only be experienced. There's no identifiable founder, and Hinduism is often called the oldest living major religion in the world. Dharma. In Hinduism, dharma refers to one's duty and obligation and to the concept of virtue. Now, to be virtuous is not the same for everyone. Different people in this world have different obligations and duties. The dharma of a teacher is different from the dharma of a student because we have different obligations, different duties to fulfill. I'm supposed to teach a class as a teacher. Student is supposed to learn. So dharma changes according to one's age, gender, or social position. Karma. Karma is the concept that every action has an equal reaction. And that reaction may be immediate, or it may come at some point in the far future. Good or virtuous actions, that is, actions that are in harmony with fulfilling your dharma or your duty and obligations, these are going to have good reactions. So if you do good things, you're going to have a good reaction to that somewhere down the road. But bad actions are the same. They're against one's dharma, and they're going to have the opposite effect. You're going to have a bad reaction or bad feedback from somebody down the road. It's going to come back to get you. Karma not only operates in this lifetime, but it operates across lifetimes. Samsara. The process of reincarnation or being reborn. This is samsara. It's a continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Actually, a belief in reincarnation really eliminates the fear of death among a believer. Because Hindus don't believe that they're the body in which they live. They believe they are an immortal soul, which inhabits many bodies throughout many lifetimes. Reincarnation only ceases when karma is resolved and God is realized. Hindu texts. The Vedas, these are the most ancient religious Hindu texts. The Upanishads, they opened up the knowledge of the universe to the middle classes, to the middle castes, to the people who could read and were willing to interpret the Hindu text for themselves. They didn't have to learn it from a teacher anymore. It was kind of like these were the first religious texts that were open to the everyday man or woman. The Bhagavad Gita, this is about a charioteer, Krishna, who's really a god. And he points out that knowledge, work, and devotion, these are all paths to salvation. And the Ramayana, this is a story about good overcoming evil. These are really classic texts. In any religion, you're going to have religious writings that emphasize these, the good and the true, and good overcoming evil, and being a devoted person, all these things. Common religious themes. The sacred. The Ganges, this is considered a sacred river to Hindus. When a loved one dies, for instance, Hindus may travel to the Ganges to consign the ashes to the custody of its waters. And the cow, this is a protected animal, considered sacred among Hindus. Hindus do not eat beef, for example. Cow products, the milk, the urine, the dung, these are all used in worship and in rites of penance. In reality, though, in India, cows are often neglected, and they wander around the city streets, living on the garbage from the gutters. Here you have 3 images from Hindu life or Indian life. You have a festival celebrated on the Ganges River. You have the sacred cow that's serving as a couch for the young boy. And you have a woman obviously at the bottom of the social stratification or class system. Talk about that in a little bit. Here we go, the caste system. Definition. There's an Indian term for hereditary caste, or we call it class here in the United States, but the Indian term is jati. And each jati has distinctive rules, customs, and modes of self-government, what's appropriate for that particular community within India. In this lifetime, according to Indians, caste mobility is impossible. Here in the United States, we encourage social class mobility. We say that if you work hard and you study hard and you do all the right things, play by the rules, then of course you can climb from one class to another. In Indian society, that's not the case. It's not part of their religious belief system. Structure. So this is kind of idealistic, but there are 4 divisions of Hindu society. Really, there's hundreds of divisions. But Varna refers to this kind of ideal 4-fold division. But again, this is ideal. You have the Brahmins, which are the priestly and the learned class. You have the Kshatriyas, which are the warriors and the rulers. And the Vaishyas, which are the farmers and the merchants. And then near the bottom, or at the bottom, are the Shudras, which are peasants, laborers, and craftsmen. However, there's people that aren't even on this scale in India. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people don't even make it onto this scale. They have no rank. They're at the complete bottom. And these are the Dalits, or often called the untouchables. Dalits. Dalit status is, if you're born into a Dalit family, like we said before, there's really no class mobility. So if your father's a Dalit, you're going to be one too. You just have to hope that you're good in this life and you fulfill your dharma and karma and you're born into a higher class in another life. But in this life, you're not changing your social class. And the kind of jobs that are associated with Dalits are impure occupations, things like leather work and butchering, or the removal of rubbish, animal carcasses, and even removing human waste. Taking a basket and going from house to house and basically scraping it out of the toilets. Dalits are considered to be polluted by their work, obviously, and they're banned from full participation in Hindu social life. They can't worship in the same temples or even drink from the same fountains as people in higher castes So discrimination against Dalits in India is really a civil rights issue. Sikhism. Location. So there are about 23 million Sikhs worldwide. So Sikhism, probably haven't heard about it, but it's the 5th largest religion in the world. About 19 million Sikhs live in India, in the northern state of Punjab. The others can be found in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. Sikhs often wear a turban on their head, so if you're out in the community, you can recognize who believes in this religion by, the men are wearing a turban. And that's not a sign of someone who believes in Islam. That's actually a sign of a Sikh from northern India. Sikhs have a lot of respect within India and outside of India. They have a high work ethic, and they really believe in education. Nanak and monotheism. So Sikhism was founded by this man called Guru Nanak back in 1469, and he was born into a Hindu family. Nanak said that religion, it's a way to unite people. But when he looked around, he saw all these different religious groups kind of fighting each other. We still see that today. We see Christian versus Muslim. We see Muslim versus Jew within Israel. We talked about that during the Middle East conflict. A lot of conflicts boil down to religion even today, even though religion is supposed to bring people together. So he founded this new religion, Guru Nanak did, Sikhism, to kind of bring more people together. It was a monotheistic faith, and it strongly believed in the one true God, and it forbid any representation of God in images and the worship of any idols. Beliefs. Sikhism retains many of the Hindu beliefs. That's where it was founded. It believes in reincarnation and karma. Followers can end the cycle of rebirth if they live a disciplined life, if they fulfill their dharma, their duties and obligations. So a follower of Sikhism should moderate their egoism, not engage in sensuous delights too much. Ultimately, salvation is a union and an absorption into God. Sikhs pray regularly and they meditate, repeating God's name. Sikhs aim to live a life that balances work, worship, and charity. And that's a positive balance. Community is emphasized. The Sikh temple is usually the center of communal life in a city. Here's the Golden Temple in northern India. This is kind of the main worship place of Sikhs. Practices. And as a symbol of their faith, Sikh men wear a turban, as I mentioned, and then they adhere to the 5 Ks. That means they don't cut their hair. It's pretty much why they wear the turban. They wrap it up and they put the turban on. They carry a wooden comb, but they believe that being well groomed is important. Remember, this is a religion going back to the late 1400s. Many people weren't very well groomed at all, I'm sure, back then. They wear a metal bracelet. They think if they have something on their wrist that they have to look at all the time that's right there in front of them, it helps them to remember God. They wear cotton undergarments. Again, nowadays we don't think that's a big deal. But for them, back in the 1400s, 1500s, people were dirty. So wearing cotton undergarments, that was just showed that you were a clean, tidy person. Important to, if you're a child of God, you want to act like a child of God. And they carried a curved sword. They still do, supposedly. And what this meant was that, again, back in the 14 and 1500s, there wasn't a lot of law enforcement. And women young women, older women, they were in danger in the streets. They were in danger of being robbed or raped. And so Sikhs thought it was their responsibility, their duty, again, their dharma, to protect women. So if they had a curved sword, they could come to their aid. The end. Thank you for your attention.